What's going on, everyone? So, NBA free agency has arrived. We will have NBA free agency later today. Depending on when you're watching this video, it might already be here, right? And the San Antonio Spurs have clear needs that they must address, right? Several glaring needs. The biggest one is obviously the center position, right? You got to go and get a clear-cut backup. I also don't hate the idea of going and getting even a starting center. Like, can you get a starter and a backup, right? You got a couple guys that just recently became available, and a DeAndre Ayton, right? You got a Day'Ron Sharpe, right? You got Luke Cornett. You got several guys that make sense in a backup role, in a starting role. I talked very heavily about moving Victor Wembanyama to the 4 because of the way in which he wants and likes to play, right? He wants to be more perimeter oriented. He wants to shoot more threes. He's not the traditional in the paint, banging with the big boys, dunking on everybody and just flexing, right? Like, he's more, hey, let me, operate in the mid range. Let me take some jump shots. Let me shoot the 3 ball. Yeah, he's at times just dunking on people and go gadget arms and all that stuff. Yes, but that's not really the game in which he wants to play. So I've talked about, I'd love to go get a guy that you can bring in that could slot in and kind of in a pinch play alongside Wemby. But if you want to keep Wemby at the 5, you could still have that guy come in maybe as a backup, right? Even like a Clint Capella, I think makes sense. One of the best offensive rebounders in all of basketball still, a veteran that come in, knows his role, could play his role. You could slot him in right next to Victor Wembanyama. So when Wemby's taking his threes and doing all that stuff, you have a guy in Clint Capella that could just be grabbing the offensive boards, kicking it back out, giving him more chances, right? So again, clear-cut need for the Spurs is the center position, right? The other side of that is wing depth. Right? They need size out on the wing, particularly the 4, right? I know you got Jeremy Sohan, Harrison Barnes can slot in and play the 4. Get Wemby, you could slot in and play the 4. So it's not like the center position to me is the biggest stressor, biggest need. Like, that's the thing you have to get. But then beyond that, I'd look to add in, perimeter 3-and-D guys, right? Or even a guy like a Bruce Brown, who's kind of more of like a 2 guard, right? But he is an excellent defender, point of attack guy, can initiate the offense. You might be saying, hey, we don't need any more guards. But Bruce Brown is a guy that is really good at defending big, right? Like, you look at a guy like Alex Caruso. That's a great example. There's a couple guys in this league that, yes, they're like 6'4", 6'5", but they do really well at defending guys that are, even 6'8". I mean, Alex Caruso was defending Jokic and getting stops, right? Like, again, Bruce Brown is one of those guys. Good, strong, physical, excellent off-ball slasher and mover, excellent cutter. Right? Can you get guys that can kind of round out and complement? Like, I want to see the Spurs get some scrappers, right? Get some guys that can do the dirty work. Because you have your finesse star in Wemby that, again, wants to be flashy, wants to not shoot the 3 ball, knock down the mid-range, right? Like, he's not in there doing the dirty work, right? But most superstars aren't, right? Even Dylan Harper, how much of the dirty work is he going to do? De'Aaron Fox isn't a guy that's really doing the dirty work, right? Stephon Castle is a guy that is. Stephon Castle is the guy that I really like that does the dirty work. But I want to get some more of those scrappers. I want to get those guys that just get out there. You can slot in multiple positions. They can play multiple. They can defend multiple positions and just go out there. They're the guys that are diving for the loose balls. They're the guys that are chasing down the rebounds. They're the ones that are creating more opportunities for a team. That's what I'd like to see them get, right? Solve the center position, get those type of scrappers. Beyond that, right, like I said, wing depth, particularly at the 4, right? Again, you got several guys. Carter Bryant could even slot in and play the 4. Like I said, Harrison Barnes, guys like that. So, again, that's not something that I think you have to run to the door to go get. But ideally, I'd like kind of keep your bigger 3s be your bigger 3s. Now, again, Carter Bryant, Julian Champagnie, Harrison Barnes, they can at any point, yes, play the 4, but I like the idea of having that size, that 6'8" size out on the perimeter for that size, that long, that length to be able to defend, be able to switch, right? Be able to be a help defender. Also just, again, like when you're going up against those smaller teams, but also when you're going up against the bigger teams, you kind of match. Right? You match no matter what. I like the idea of the Spurs kind of having this big unit, especially if Wemby is going to play the 5. right? Because he's not this big physical bruiser. And in the Western Conference in particular, there are so many just big, just burly centers, right? Ivaka Zubac, right? Like, Nikola Jokic, right? Like you got Zach Edey. You got several guys on these teams, even a Sabonis, guys that can just be those bruisers on the inside, that can be physical, that can be aggressive. And Wemby, yes, he's supposedly gained 10, 15 pounds. That's great. That should help. But one, do you want him banging as much down low with these big bruisers? But two, just to have that size and that length that can be the help defense and collapse. Like Jokic has the ball and you have a 6'8", 3, and then you have like a 6'8" to 6'10", 4, and then you got Victor Wembanyama and just throwing a bunch of size and length on Jokic every time he catches the basketball. But they're also long, athletic, and versatile enough to where, when Jokic throws that kick out pass, the pass out of the double team or whatever, those guys can get back and disrupt the shot and, have an effect. Those are the kind of things that I'd like to see. And then, just quality vets, right? I've talked very heavily about keeping Harrison Barnes. And that I really want to see the Spurs kind of keep him around. Obviously, look, he's an $18 million expiring contract that, veteran teams to teams that are trying to, bottom out and all that stuff. Like, there's a lot of teams that could potentially use a Harrison Barnes. And I don't look at Harrison Barnes as, like, untradeable, right? Like, I'm not looking at Harrison Barnes like, oh, you can't trade him, nothing like that. Like, no, like, if you need to trade him, trade him. But it's not something that, like, if you could keep him, even over like a Keldon Johnson or something, I would prefer you to do that, right? Because, again, he's that veteran. He can take guys like Carter Bryant under his wing. He can continue to help guys like Julian Champagnie, right? Just be that savvy vet. Be nice to bring a couple of those guys in, right? You're probably losing Chris Paul, which, I mean, you have such an abundance of guards. It makes sense. But Chris Paul was just very crucial to that team. Very good at, like, helping guys like Stephon Castle and these various players. I'd like to see you kind of go, can you go get the Udonis Haslem type vets or, a Jared Dudley type vets? The guys that are like, yes, in a pinch they can play, but for the most part, they're there to just kind of help because you just have this really young core and young culture. You need to get kind of your top, 8 to 10 guys. And once you got that, you need to kind of fill out the back end of the roster. I'm okay with them if they were to kind of fill out the back end of the roster with some of these, just like a quality vet or two. Again, it doesn't have to be anything crazy. You don't have to go sell the farm for a guy. Like, I don't want you to overpay or anything like that. But can you just find that vet or two that's willing to come in that's like, hey, like, sure, I'd love to play when I get a chance. Yeah, you're probably going to get a couple DMPs. You're probably going to, play various roles on this team, but just kind of be a mentor for this team. Then, yeah, I think that's something that the Spurs should really look at. It's something that the Spurs should really look for. But, no, I kind of, to like rank it in the way that I want to. Big man, right? Just another kind of category, actually, before I rank it, is like, I don't mind while you're a young team and you're kind of going through it, like the flyer guys. Like, I wouldn't hate that. Like, a Zaire Williams is a great example that just recently became an unrestricted free agent, right? Like, he's a guy that's young, hyper athletic, 6'9", versatile wing. Can you maybe get a guy like him? Like, I don't, like, as much as like everything else, like, go get those flyer guys. What if you go get a Zaire Williams and he's just like incredible for you? Because again, sometimes you see guys and they're kind of question marks on these teams, but then they go to that right team, that right culture, that right system, and all of a sudden, they're excellent. So even the flyer guys, right? Like, take the guys that have like the upside and potential, right? Take a couple gamble moves. Right? Don't like pit yourself in a corner or overpay or any of that, but just take a couple chances on a couple guys. But to rank it, clear-cut center, then I'd ideally like some perimeter depth. Then I'd probably say like the flyer guys, and then like the vet minimum guys that are coming in kind of being mentors and help, right? So center, I think, is far and away, whether it's, again, a starter, a backup, whatever they decide to do, you have to get a center, right? Like, Wemby can't be basically your only center, and then you're going small ball. Right? You need some real center, some real size, some real length. and there's several options on the board. There's a couple teams that are trying to get centers, right? Like the Warriors could use a center. Boston could use a center. The Lakers could use a center, right? But there's an abundance of centers. And, say like, the Lakers, for example, a lot of talks about Ayton, right? Like, well, if Ayton ends up going there, well, then that's one team that doesn't, if they solve their center position, then that's one team out of the picture for free agency or even a trade, right? To where maybe you're going and getting a Nick Richards cheaper because it's like, man, like we have nowhere else to trade him. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, pass a question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me out. So we enjoy these types of videos. Truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one.